Hey everyone, in this session, let's talk about some of the basics of JavaScript. And let's start with the question, how old do you think JavaScript is? So let's keep the question open and move on. JavaScript is a cross-platform dynamic object-oriented scripting language. So every phrase here means something. So cross-platform means we can run JavaScript in any platform. Platform as in Windows, Mac OS, and any Linux-based platform as well. So the dynamic word here means the type of the variable is determined only at the runtime, not at the compile time. So if you do not understand this for now, that's fine. We will understand them later. But dynamic, for example, the other example would be if you declare a variable any name, you can assign any data type to that variable, which is possible in JavaScript. But in Java, for example, if you declare a variable integer type, you can only assign numbers to that variable. But here we can assign pretty much everything, any data type to that variable. That's called dynamically typed. And another thing is object-oriented scripting. So just like other programming languages, it is also having those classes and object where we can achieve a lot of reusability by inheriting properties. And obviously the main purpose of JavaScript is to make web pages interactive. And this was invented by Brendan Eich, who was the co-founder of the Mozilla project and who was also an ex-employee of Netscape. That's when he found this JavaScript. And it is a prototype based object model instead of more class based. For example, in Java, basically we define classes and objects more often, but here it's all prototype based. So what is the prototype based object model is? So basically prototype you can think of as a template. So every object in JavaScript will have at least one prototype. So for example, arrays prototype object is object. So we'll see them in the subsequent section on how we can utilize the prototype, but that's a definition for now. And another point is JavaScript is standardized by Ekma International. So Ekma is something called European Computer Manufacturers Association, who defines the specification and standards for JavaScript. And basically JavaScript is adhering to those specifications. And the current edition of ECMAScript would be 12th edition. So basically we can relate this with the current year, and 2021, basically after June we'll get the 12th edition. So next year we'll get the 13th edition and after the month of June. So almost I think every June in the year, so they release a version. And another important point is JavaScript is a case sensitive. So the way we define any variable, function, or any property name, we should be able to call that with the same cases, right? So that's the meaning of case sensitive language. And another thing is it's just a general knowledge. So it was the original name was JavaScript was a live script. I think because it is inheriting, it is having a similar concept, so it has been called as live script. But recently, then it's called as JavaScript. And remember, there is no relation between Java and JavaScript. It's just that it's a name. And another important thing is the node.js. So what is the difference between JavaScript and node.js? So simple difference. Node.js is a runtime environment of JavaScript. What does it really mean? So basically, we can run any JavaScript file with node.js. So node.js is a set of libraries which will be used to run the JavaScript. So that's the definition of node.js. So using node.js, we will be able to achieve any of the server-side scripting, making an API call, handling a file system, or making a database or anything. Basically, anything that we do outside of the browser can all be done by node.js. That's the meaning. But one thing though, we didn't get the answer for the first question of how old JavaScript is, right? The answer is this. So it is the 25 years of old JavaScript, and you can imagine that it is close to or more than 1.4 million libraries. So it's a countless. Basically, it's a larger ecosystem, and pretty much we have any type of challenges, any type of thing we can do or achieve to using the node.js. So basically we can see them in detail about what are the packages, how we can use them, but for now this you can think of that it is a larger ecosystem. And that's all for now. We'll see that in the next topic.